Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Chris Salcedo Show here on Newsmax TV. All this week, the Chris Salcedo Show will present a series we're calling The Big War with China. It's a critical look at the communist nation. Our goal is to provide insight on their aggressive military buildup, their unfair trade practices, and human rights abuses. Communist China, Earth's #1 human rights abuser. That's our focus in tonight's preamble. According to the anti-Semite-dominated United Nations, Israel is the worst human rights violator in the world today. Now, if you surveyed socialists in the United States, they would say cops, or the United States writ large, is the largest human rights abuser in the world. But in reality, the inhuman communist regime of China holds that title. Even though it's only been 3 months, it seems like forever since we had a governance in this country with a conscience holding the reins of power. During the pro-freedom Trump administration, then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo officially declared China's treatment of Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang a, quote, genocide, constituting crimes against humanity, making the United States the first nation in the world to do so. Millions of Muslim Uyghurs endure torture, forced abortions, forced labor, and your run-of-the-mill cruelty at the hands of their communist masters. Aside from being a genocide, this state-run enterprise makes China the second largest slave state in the world behind India, with a slave population at roughly 3.4 million people. Human Rights Watch notes China's general population also suffers under the iron fist of the left-wing totalitarian government there. In 2015, the Chinese government announced that it would allow all couples to have 2 children. Now, this put an end to its decades-long one-child policy. If women were found to be pregnant with their second child, the state would order a forced abortion. This barbarism brought a tear to the eye of the pro-abortion lobby in America, a tear of joy. Now, even though the one-child policy has been lifted, this didn't change the fact that China's family planning policies remain coercive and abusive to this day. China continues to play a domineering role in women's reproductive choices and bodily autonomy, controlling both the number of children a couple can have and the intervals at which they can have them. Left-wingers in comparatively free nations, including the United States, who wander the landscape shouting, "My body, my choice," remains silent on China's anti-life savagery. The Borgen Project, a nonprofit organization that is addressing poverty and hunger, reveals that about 500,000 individuals are currently detained in China without trial, charge, or access to legal counsel. The Chinese government uses re-education through labor, RTL, to arrest individuals without trial. Usual targets of RTL include petitioners, protesters, and those practicing an unrecognized religion. Black jails and mental health institutions are types of illegal detention that are utilized by China's secret police. Yesterday, we told you about the virulent strain of racism against blacks in China. African officials have been confronting China publicly and in private over racist mistreatment of Africans in the Chinese city of Guangzhou, and the U.S. says African Americans have been targeted as well. Foreign policy reports that in China, in Chinese media, I should say, Africans are often characterized as backward or primitive. Even though their social media is scoured by government overseers, virulent racism is common, including claims that Africans are rapists, drug dealers, or AIDS carriers. BLM and other woke Marxist groups in America, they sit silent. On April 4th of last year, reports of an infected Nigerian man attacking a Chinese nurse went viral, unleashing a slew of online trolls demanding their city be cleansed. Online posters claimed their region was, quote, littered with blacks. The Chinese government allowed this racism and disinformation to foment to allow the Chinese people to believe it was blacks from Africa that spread the China virus, when in fact, it originated and spread from communist China. But China is even guilty of a fake crime against humanity. The religion of the left here in America is the theory of man-made global warming. The article of faith in that religion is that man's CO2 emissions is warming the planet. And they've not proven this theory, and that's why we call it an article of faith. But China is guilty of being the world's #1 emitter of CO2. Yet Western liberals will not insist that China reduce its CO2 emissions to come into compliance with their religion. I'm forced to wonder, why is that? Now, if you're a watcher of the mainstream press, All this news is, well, news to you. The majority of the media, the woke American corporations, and their allies in the Socialist Democrat Party have downplayed China's human rights abuses. They've been driven by greed, ideology, indifference, stupidity, or, well, all of the above. Now, tomorrow, we're going to focus on China's unprecedented military expansion and the Democrats who are eager to make sure America can't rise to defend our people if our military is called upon.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.